everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rebecca and Rebecca. My name is Rebecca Yager, coming to you from sunny and summery Dallas, Texas, and my partner in books is Rebecca Reed from Indiana. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi Becky, how you doing?
We're doing good. Cruising along this summer. It's going so fast.
It is going fast indeed, yes.
Well, I say summer, by the time this airs, we'll be quickly heading into fall,
That's
right?
true.
You'll be
That's
back in
true.
school.
Yes. Yes, I will. I was thinking that same exact thing. So, yep.
Well, this month we are reviewing a romantic suspense book, high octane thriller, as we like to say. We are
Mhm.
going to be talking about Line of Fire by Taylor S. Newport, and it's the first book one in the Dauntless Defenders series. And we're going to talk more about Taylor and this book. But Rebecca, why don't you let people know what Line of Fire is all about and dive right in?
Okay. The enemy is relentless, but they made one fatal mistake. They underestimated him. Australian mercenary Tyler Reed, known as the Ghost of Oz, has a talent for evading detection and a skill that has caught the eye of multiple government agencies. When a shadowy group targets a CIA asset and her revolutionary drug ND1, the deputy director calls in Tyler. Eager for action, Tyler takes the job. He soon realizes that the enemy is not only after the drug, but also out for his blood. Then the mission goes south, and he's forced to seek an unlikely ally. For covert foreign operative Alexandra Romanova, freedom is a distant dream. Escaping one prison only led her to a more dangerous one. Her deadly skills are at her boss's disposal, but she'll use them only to escape. Her final chance hinges on retrieving ND1. But the elusive Ghost of Oz complicates things. Tyler Reed isn't an easy mark, and the better she gets to know him, the more she questions. The more she questions the mission she's tasked with. Sorry about that. Soon she faces a dire choice: kill the man she is convinced is good, or pay with her own life. As Tyler and Alex venture beyond their orders, the line between enemy and ally blurs. On the edges of failure, trust becomes a dangerous gamble with every decision, dragging them deeper into the line of fire. As enemies close in and alliances shift, they are ensnared in a ruthless battle where survival depends on split-second choice. In this high-stakes fight, time is running out, and the margin for error is zero. And she does say this is not a standalone novel. So if you expect the whole story to be over and out when you're finished, that's not going to happen. It does continue, although it does wrap up. I mean, um
There's a
there
little bit
is
of a cliffhanger.
it's a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it's not completely. Like we've reviewed worse.
Yes.
We've
Yes.
reviewed some that were extreme cliffhangers. This one is a minor cliffhanger. I would judge it on the scale of cliffhangers. Do we have a scale of cliffhanger? We ought to have a scale of cliffhanger.
Maybe we need a scale of with these series. But yeah, she does. And book two's out. So read this one, and book two, you'll be ready to go. Now, I don't know what the cliffhanger is in book two.
I'm sure there is
It's,
one because it is also part of this
it's
ongoing
yeah,
series. Yeah.
apparently there's going to be several books in this series. But let's start with the first book and with Line of Fire. Now, Taylor opens up the book and she gives us a cast of characters, and she gives us the terms for the military operatives and things like that. And Rebecca, I'm just throwing this out there, is what is your opinion of a cast of characters and things like that at the beginning of a book?
Well, I've seen it in fantasies quite often, and a
Mhm.
lot of times it's because you have character, especially in fantasy, the names of the characters can be somewhat daunting. And also, a lot of times there's like groups, right? There's this family versus this family versus this, And so I think in a fantasy, I understand it because they have all those different groups you have to kind of sort through and keep separate. This series it's from what Taylor says, is going to be quite long. So I'm not sure if she did it for because there's going to be a lot of ongoing characters and she's going to continue that and add to it. I don't know. I'm not sure. Sometimes though, I'm like, I don't know that I like it at the beginning. I would rather that it was at the end and not at the beginning, I think. Was
Oh,
it at the
that's
beginning?
interesting. I hadn't thought about it being at the end though, because I think
Hmm.
she's trying to introduce all the characters, but and maybe, and this is just a personal thing, and I'm totally off our topic of the review. But sometimes when there's a long list of characters, and of course I don't read a lot of fantasy, um, it almost bothers me. It's like, is this going to be overly complicated to where we can't keep track of them, or is there a way to
My
write it into
favorite.
the book? Huh?
I said that's my favorite. Complicated. I love complicated. Um, but yeah, I understand what you're saying about it. And I think, yeah, it can be a little daunting sometimes. And some people don't like complicated, and I get that. Like some people are really like, I give me 5 characters and I'm good. Um, but I I guess my personal preference would be to put it at the end, kind of like a glossary of terms too. Because a lot of fantasy books you need that too, because there's like a lot of made up things. And so you have a glossary of terms because especially if there's another languages that are made up or
Sure.
something, and that makes perfect
That's
sense.
understandable. Makes perfect sense.
But I
So
want it at the end. I don't want it at the beginning. Like I don't like it at the beginning. I want to figure it out on my
interesting.
own first. And I tend not to skip things, even if they're prologues or whatever. I don't skip
That's
those.
good.
I read the
Nope.
acknowledgments, I read all the stuff that's there. So for
Mhm.
me, I would prefer all that stuff in back matter instead of front matter, just because I want to figure that stuff out on my own first. But I don't mind having the reference, kind of like having the dictionary glossary in a textbook at the end or whatever. It's kind of like that's okay. It seems like it fits there.
I don't
Personal,
know,
I
but
mean, I don't know.
okay, to me the exception. You get away from speculative and fantasy if you can't weave all the characters in. I mean, yeah.
I personally think they
No?
should be woven in. I do. I
Me
think they
too.
should be woven in. I
Okay.
do. But I don't think having it is necessarily a
A bad thing.
tell that it's not woven in. It just is a an author that thinks they have a large cast, maybe trying to make it more clear or as a reference. But that's why I think it
Right.
needs to go at the end because it's a reference.
Because it's a reference. That's anyway. That just occurred to me as we talked about this. But this is interesting, and there is a large cast of characters. And actually, I thought, especially the main characters of Tyler and Alex, are well developed,
Hmm.
and you're absorbed. This is a high concept book from a young writer. And I can't wait to talk to her to see how her brain works because she's got great imagination with this story and this drug and this rogue CIA organization. And it's
Right.
just very complex.
Lots of pieces. There are lots of pieces to it.
Mhm.
But they all fit together. Like they're brought in, they fit together. Um, but yeah, it is very high concept.
Mhm.
Um, very, you can tell there's an awareness of the world and like things that happen in it because you couldn't come up with this kind of thing just isolated. Like she has to have at least been made aware of things, like be aware of the news and things like that, things that happen because it fits in with today's world very, very nicely.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she does a great job of keeping it clean, not using like gratuitous words and symbols and
Mhm.
things to like because of sensationalism. She doesn't do that. She's a Christian author. She uses very I mean, there is violence because of the nature of what kind of story
Yeah,
it is,
there's fight scenes and the guns and yeah,
but
it's a spin.
it's not the blood and gore. It's not, any of that. So you don't have to be worried about censoring anybody to read it or whatever. You don't have to worry about your own like seeing nightmares of all this whatever
Oh
because
gosh, no, she's
it's not there.
and in fact, if you look at Taylor's website on that, she is committed to writing this kind of thriller. There's room for suspense stories like this that don't have to be the blood and the gore and the
Yeah.
gratuitous language and everything. And I really love that. Again, we are both Christian authors and Christians, and we tend to write clean books and clean stories. So this is what we're going to focus on too. And I totally am committed to that because I think you can write a very entertaining, very action-packed book, a very romantic book if you want to go,
Yes, and gritty.
sex off the screen and
You can include topics that are very, very difficult. I mean, this includes a lot of things that they're not the easiest topics in the world. There's some very difficult, especially the backstories of
mm,
Alexandra, the female main character, even Tyler's backstory. There's a lot of things in it that are difficult topics, and she doesn't shy away from those, but she treats them in a way that is um, not going to disturb more than it should. You know what I mean? I mean, they're included because they're necessary. They play a big role, but they're not going to be like nightmare causing things, that kind of thing.
and actually I think in a way it can be more difficult to write a clean book that is so action-packed or a romance that is clean but still romantic, to satisfy all that. So I kudos to her again for this complicated plot in a good way. And
Hmm.
it's in depth, such a great concept of a book, and I can see where she can make a series from it and keep it going. So I'm going to be curious as to where this all leads as we go along.
Agreed. I mean, there's gonna be, I don't know how many books she plans, but there's at least three because she's working on book three now. So, yeah, I think it is fascinating. Um, because this requires a lot. There's a lot of pieces. So plotting it out, we're going to talk to her about whether she's a plotter or a pantser, or what her process is. It'll be interesting to see how much of it just sort of evolved the way it did, and how much of it she planned. And because it is complicated, but as you said, in a good way, not so complicated you can't figure it out or understand it. And there's good side characters too, our
Yeah, my
favorite thing.
favorite. I don't know how we got so stuck on side characters, but to me, they make a richer
Hmm.
and more in-depth book. So we liked Ben and Kenna, who are Alex's closest allies, where she works, and even Tyler's handler, Vaughn, is a great side character. Comes out, and then we have the evil ones.
Mm,
Can't put them out. Got the bad guys in there, but some of
yes,
them are really interesting, and you're not quite sure where they are on the line. Are they
true.
really a bad guy? Are they doing something covert? And that's another thing Taylor did well. It was like,
Hmm.
oh, whose
There were a
side did
lot of those. I feel like there were a lot of kind of that. Are they good? Are they not? Are they? And some of them, I think, were like towing that line, Like I think there was quite a few who were sometimes good, sometimes not, and so we had to kind of like think about like deep down, are they where is their moral center? What do they really believe in? Because some of them, their circumstances were putting them on this side of the line when maybe they really wanted to be on this side. And that was the case with our hero and heroine too. They sometimes appeared to be not so good, but their intentions showed them to be good. And there's a lot of choices in this book, a lot of choices. And we've talked about impossible choices in past reviews. In this book, if that's one of the things that you like, that draws you to a story, this book has a lot of those types of choices and decisions that are made by many characters, not just the main two. Um, and there's a lot of motivational things you can kind of think about in this story as well. Like, why did they choose to do that? Why did that person choose to do this? So if those are the kind of stories that you like, there's a lot of psychological kinds of things in here, but there's a lot of physical things as well, as far as
The
fighting
action.
and,
Mhm.
action. There's tons of action. There's not a lot of downtime for the characters. They're constantly on the go. So, yeah.
They are, but while they're on the go, they're still wrestling with these moral dilemmas, as you talk about. So that makes this book a little deeper and go in depth a little bit. Now we do want to give honest reviews about this, and Taylor's a young writer and she's learning, and we're so supportive and want to encourage her and stuff. But to me, there was a little bit of overwriting, and for readers outside the writing world may not understand what we're saying about that, but there are ways that things could have been shortened, edited down to keep up the pace a little bit better. The pace was great, but she could have even gone a step further.
Yes, I think it could have. I mean, for writers, you'll know what we're talking about when we talk about difference between a dialogue tag and an action beat. And there were some things there that could have been maybe condensed and she used
Mhm.
both when you could have used one. This means like saying he said, she said versus he picked up the gun and moved to the alley or something. Those are the difference between a dialogue tag and an action beat. One shows the action, one says who talked, right? And there was some of that could have maybe been shortened, that would have kind of eliminated some unnecessary words here and there. And there was a few other things too, where there was some repeated scenes that maybe could have been
Yeah.
handled slightly differently, just to keep the writing fresh and keep the action fresher. Not that it was bad, it just, those are just some things that if you are an experienced thriller reader, you might pick up on that maybe other authors have, older authors, more experienced authors have learned how to do over time that maybe Taylor just hasn't quite gotten there yet. Not that we're definitely recommending this book as one you should read. However, there are things, and even experienced authors, there's always something, right, that
Oh,
could be
sure.
improved. Everybody has something that could be made better. And I hope that every author's goal is to make the next book better than the one they just wrote or the one that just come out. So none of these are like stay away, because that's not how we feel about this book at all. We loved it. But we don't want you to get into a book and be like, well, they loved it and I think this and this. And there are always things, right, that could be improved.
And,
And these are just a few of the things that we noticed.
and I think as Taylor gets going and really keeps writing and learns and grows, these things are going to take care of themselves. Again, the concept and the idea and the complex plot. Oh my word, how her brain must work. I mean, to come up with all of that and keep it, she must be a plotter. I can't imagine trying to just throw all this out there as someone just writing from the from um,
People do though.
as a pantser. There went
People
my
do.
words.
Remember we talked to, who was it? Was it who was that said that they didn't even know who the villain was until they got, was that
Oh, who was that? Yeah,
Colleen? Wasn't it Colleen Coble
might have
that
been Colleen
said
because I know
she
Colleen's a
didn't
pantser.
she didn't even
Yeah.
know who the villain was until
So,
she was almost done with the book. So, I mean, it can be done. And I think it just requires, you have to go back and really make
well, that re
sure that it all fits, right? And
yes.
this one does. I mean, she did a good job of bringing all
Oh
the
gosh,
threads.
yes.
The romance is done well because they are on the go so much. There is a definite attraction from like the
Yes.
beginning, but she does a good job of balancing that so that there's not, so that it flows like in a natural pace. And there's so much going on. Otherwise, they don't really have a time to really develop that a whole lot. But that's okay because there's more books and
I was about
they'll.
to say she's left herself room to develop the romance on a more natural pace, which I really liked and really appreciated. That it wasn't, oh, they're stuck in this, they're running for their lives and they're going to fall in love and take the moment to, fall in love. And it's like, hello, you're running for your lives.
People are shooting at you.
You can't stop and kiss while bullets
I'm
are flying
running.
around you. so, so I do like that it was realistic in that
Yeah.
sense that yes, they're attracted to each other, and we sense that as the readers. but she's still leaving herself room to develop this attraction. And you do want to know what happens with them as they move along, as book two comes out, and which is out now. And then
Yes,
book
yes.
three is supposed to be out early next year. So there's room to go here.
Hmm.
And I think the rate she's going, it's just going to be a thrill a minute.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know,
Lots of talent. Lots of talent here.
lots of talent. Yeah, you can totally see that. So is it a perfect book? No, it's not a perfect book, but I guess there's not a perfect book out there. But we
Bible.
want we well done. And even that's
And
been in
and
different
people will
translations.
argue that point too. So there's that.
All right, let's invite those comments in. Tell us how you really feel.
Yes, please. We would love to entertain that. Anyway,
But
um,
I think Taylor's a wonderful up and coming writer. I think she's got good things to say. And if she is thinking with this kind of depth and this kind of complexity for her plots, man, are we in for a good time as she continues to write books.
absolutely. Yes.
So again, this is Line of Fire by Taylor S. Newport. It's the first book in her Dauntless Defenders series. It's worth picking up. And listen, we're going to talk to Taylor if you want to learn more about her and see how her brain really works. She joins us in a couple of weeks, and we're looking forward to that. So
Yes. And in the meantime, please head on over to our website, RebeccaandRebecca.com, or you can find us on our Instagram at Rebecca and Rebecca Reviews. Either place you can find information about our upcoming or past episodes.
yeah,
Please feel free, and we encourage you to subscribe, to follow all of the likes and, comments and things. We will answer you if you do comment, so we won't leave you hanging, at least not too long, hopefully. We'll notice. We try
yeah,
not
we want
to.
to.
It's not
Yeah, we
an,
want to engage. We want to talk
yes.
to you. So
And so thank you very much for tuning into this, and we hope to see you next, well, later this month, right?
later this month with
Later
Taylor.
this month.
Yeah, Taylor S.
Okay.
Newport. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.